Think you can own self-defense weapons in Canada? Well, it's complicated. Most people assume Canada has completely banned anything useful for personal protection, but that's not entirely true. There are legal options, and some of them might surprise you. In this video, we're breaking down the less lethal weapons you can legally own in Canada, how they work, and whether they're actually practical. If you've ever wondered what's allowed for home defense, or just want to know your legal options, stick around, because some of these might change the way you think about self-defense in Canada. Welcome to Bolt vs. Lever. If you're into firearms, self-defense, and gear breakdowns, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future videos. All right, let's dive in. Before we get into what you can own, let's clear up some of the biggest myths about Canadian self-defense laws. Myth number 1. You can carry a gun for self-defense. Nope. In Canada, using a firearm for self-defense is highly restricted. Unlike in the US, you can't just claim self-defense as a reason to own or carry a firearm. You need a possession and acquisition license, PAL, just to own a gun. And even then, carrying it for protection is not allowed unless you meet very rare criteria, like working in remote wilderness as a trapper. Myth number 2. Pepper spray is legal for self-defense. Not quite. While bear spray is legal for protection against wildlife, carrying pepper spray for self-defense against humans is illegal under Canadian law. If you're caught with it and tell the police it's for personal protection, you could be charged with carrying a prohibited weapon. Myth number 3. Tasers and stun guns are legal. Wrong again. Tasers, stun guns, and other electroshock weapons are completely prohibited for civilian use. The only people legally allowed to carry them in Canada are law enforcement officers. Myth number 4. If it's less lethal, it must be legal. Not necessarily. Canada's laws focus on intent and classification. Even if a weapon is less lethal, if it's considered a prohibited weapon under the criminal code, owning or carrying it can still get you into trouble. That means items like expandable batons, brass knuckles, and certain types of knives are illegal for personal defense. What does this mean for self-defense? Canada's self-defense laws focus on the reasonable use of force. This means that while defending yourself isn't illegal, using a weapon, especially one that's prohibited, could land you in legal trouble. But don't worry, there are still legal, less lethal options available, and we're about to go into them. Do you think Canada's laws on self-defense are too strict? Should there be more legal options? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. Now let's talk about one of the most practical, less lethal options available in Canada: pepperball guns. These look and function a lot like paintball guns, but instead of paint, they fire projectiles filled with a powerful pepper irritant that burst on impact, creating a cloud of incapacitating chemicals. What are pepperball guns? CO2-powered launchers that fire hard plastic rounds filled with pava, an active ingredient similar to pepper spray, used by law enforcement and security professionals for ground control and non-lethal engagements. Can shoot solid rubber projectiles or inert practice rounds as well. Are they legal in Canada? Yes, but under specific conditions. If the gun stays under 500 feet per second and under 5.7 joules of energy, it's not classified as a firearm under Canadian law. That means you don't need a PAL license to own one. If it exceeds that limit, it may be considered a firearm, which means it would be restricted under Canadian gun laws. Popular models that stay within legal limit include Byrna HD, one of the most well-known non-lethal personal defense launchers. Shoots both pepper and kinetic rounds. Tipman TCP, a compact magazine-fed launcher used in tactical settings. Umarex T4E HDR50, a revolver-style launcher that can fire both rubber and irritant rounds. Effectiveness. How well do they work? Pepperball guns are highly effective for home defense because they create distance between you and an attacker. The pepper powder spreads beyond the point of impact, affecting multiple assailants. They don't require direct hits to work. Just bursting nearby can incapacitate someone. The physical impact alone hurts enough to deter an attacker. Potential drawbacks. Not a guaranteed stop. Unlike a firearm, a pepperball gun won't immediately neutralize a determined attacker. Wind and ventilation issues. Indoors, the irritant can affect you too if you're not careful. Ammo availability. Some retailers won't ship pepper projectiles to Canada, making resupply a bit tricky. Is it the best, less lethal option? For home defense, pepperball guns are arguably the best legal choice in Canada. They give you range, stopping power, and a strong deterrent factor. without crossing the line into fully restricted weapons. Would you consider owning a pepper ball gun for self-defense? Or do you think there are better options? Let me know in the comments. Let's move on to beanbag shotguns, a less lethal option often used by law enforcement for riot control. What are beanbag shotguns? Standard 12-gauge shotguns that fire beanbag rounds instead of lethal ammunition. Beanbag rounds are fabric pouches filled with lead shot that flatten on impact, spreading force over a larger area, designed to incapacitate without penetrating the body. Are they legal in Canada? Owning a 12-gauge shotgun is legal with a PAL, possession and acquisition license. Beanbag rounds themselves are not prohibited, but using them in self-defense is a legal gray area. Effectiveness. Pros and cons. Strong stopping power. Hits hard enough to take someone down. Works at range. Unlike pepper spray, you can engage from a safe distance. Not non-lethal. Can still cause serious injury, especially at close range. Legal risk. Using a firearm for self-defense is heavily scrutinized. Is it worth it? Beanbag shotguns could be viable for home defense if laws were more flexible, but currently they pose too much legal risk for civilian use. In most cases, pepper ball guns are a safer, more legal option. Now let's talk about high-powered air guns, a legal but often overlooked option for self-defense and home protection. What are high-powered air guns? Air rifles and CO2 pistols that fire metal pellets or rubber rounds at high speeds. Some models, like the Umarex HDR-50, can fire 50 caliber rubber balls at speeds that sting like hell and could deter an attacker. PCP, pre-charged pneumatic air rifles, can generate significant force but are mainly used for hunting and pest control. Are they legal in Canada? Yes, as long as they stay under 500 feet per second and 5.7 joules. Anything exceeding those limits requires a PAL license and is treated like a firearm. Effectiveness, pros and cons. Good deterrent. Many air guns look like real firearms and can scare off intruders. Reusable ammo. Unlike pepper rounds, you can train with rubber or metal pellets. Not a guaranteed stop. Won't immediately incapacitate an attacker. Legal gray area. Using one in self-defense might still be questioned. Verdict: air guns are better than nothing, but pepper ball guns offer more stopping power in a defensive situation. Now let's talk about one of the most unexpected self-defense tools that you can legally own in Canada: flare guns. These aren't designed as weapons, but in the right situation, they could serve as an effective deterrent. What are flare guns? Designed for emergency signaling, flare guns fire bright, burning projectiles that can be seen for miles. Typically 12-gauge single-shot launchers, they resemble handguns and can be intimidating in appearance. Used by boaters, hikers, and survivalists for distress signaling in remote areas. Are they legal in Canada? Yes, flare guns are completely legal to own without a firearms license, as long as they are used for their intended purpose, emergency signaling. However, modifying a flare gun to fire live ammunition is illegal and can lead to criminal charges. Carrying a flare gun in public without a valid reason, like boating or hiking, can still be considered a weapons offense. Effectiveness. Can they work for self-defense? Blinding and disorienting. A flare gun fired at close range could temporarily blind an attacker. Loud and attention-grabbing. The explosion in bright light can attract attention and scare off threats. Fire hazard. The burning flare can ignite clothing or surroundings, creating an additional deterrent. Slow to reload. Most models are single shot, leaving you defenseless if you miss. Dangerous for you too. Using a flare gun in a home or an enclosed space could start a fire. Legal gray area. While owning one is legal, using it as a weapon could still result in legal trouble. Verdict: flare guns aren't designed for self-defense, but if you're in a desperate situation, especially outdoors, they could serve as a last-ditch deterrent. However, pepper ball guns and air guns are far better options for home defense. If you own a flare gun, it's best to use it strictly for emergencies. If firearms, pepper spray, and tasers are off limits in Canada, what about blunt force weapons and tactical tools? There are a few options that remain legal for civilian use, but only if carried for lawful purposes. What are blunt force and tactical self-defense tools? These are everyday items that can be used defensively but are not classified as weapons under Canadian law. The key here is intent. If you carry something with the purpose of using it as a weapon, you can still face legal trouble. What's legal to own and carry? Tactical flashlights. High-lumen flashlights with aggressive bezels. IG Phoenix TK16. Heavy canes or walking sticks. Cold Steel City Stick is a great example of a self-defense capable cane. Work or utility tools. A solid screwdriver or wrench, if carried as part of a toolkit. Legal fixed blade or folding knife, as long as not carried as a weapon or concealed with criminal intent. What's not legal to carry? Expandable batons, completely prohibited for civilians. Brass knuckles, classified as a prohibited weapon. Tasers, stun guns, and electric shock devices. Illegal except for law enforcement. Kubotens, if designed as weapons. If marketed as a self-defense tool, it's prohibited. Effectiveness, what's practical for everyday carry. Tactical flashlights can temporarily blind an attacker, are fully legal, and double as a striking tool. Heavy canes, completely legal, strong impact tool, and doesn't raise suspicion. Keys or pins, improvised defense tools that are discreet and effective in close quarters. Verdict: while blunt force tools can be legally carried in Canada, they must be carried for lawful reasons. A heavy-duty flashlight or walking stick is the most practical and risk-free option for everyday carry, offering both utility and a potential defensive use without violating any laws. Now that we've covered the less lethal weapons you can legally own in Canada, the big question is, which one is actually the best for you? Best, overall, less lethal option, pepperball guns. Why? They offer range, stopping power, and an effective deterrent without requiring a firearm license. Best model? The Byrna HD is a top choice for its reliability, ease of use, and effectiveness. Best for home defense and personal safety without legal complications. Best everyday carry Opticon. Tactical flashlight. Why? Fully legal, practical for daily use, and can be used for self-defense in a pinch. Best model? The Phoenix TK16 or Streamlight ProTac HL. Offer high lumens and rugged construction. Best for anyone looking for a discreet and functional tool that doubles as a defensive option. Best budget-friendly option, high-powered Airguns. Why? They can be effective deterrents and are widely available in Canada. Best model? The Umarex HDR50 is a great pick for its intimidation factor and usability. Best for those who want an alternative to pepperball guns but still want something legal and effective. What to avoid? Flare guns for self-defense. Too risky, unpredictable, and not designed for protection. Beanbag shotguns. Legally questionable and require a PAL license to own a shotgun. Any weapon with a questionable legal status. If it's in a gray area, it's not worth the legal risk. So, what do you think? Which of these legal, less lethal options would you choose? Let me know in the comments. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth breakdowns on self-defense, firearms, and Canadian laws. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and keep your options open. This is Bolt vs. Lever, signing off.